I didn't even know how to run a computer 2 years ago. You know, I had to learn all this stuff, and now I run like 8 computers to do the show. You know, we have servers that feed out to the radio stations, which we lost most of them for being off a month, but we got at least one here tonight. But, you know, it's been a long learning experience. But here's where I'm going to start getting into some crap, which I think some people are going to be either pissed off or they're going to, you know, I was talking to somebody on Facebook today. I know vaguely who they were, but I didn't realize they were screenshotting everything I was saying and put it up on a couple different group pages, you know, for other people to read what I was saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was kind of upsetting, but I'm over that. Now, Art confided into me that he was unhappy with the person he put in the chair when he decided to quit broadcasting. And it started getting onto him more and more as this person wouldn't really take all his advice and was doing their own thing. And she started talking about Area 51, and Art posted something at the time trying to be supportive. But the next day, I get a phone call from Art. And he goes, I don't know what to do, Gary. I don't know what to do. She's talking about going on Area 51 and taking her listeners that will go with her onto Area 51 to get disclosure. Art was very concerned if that ever happened. And somebody, because, come on, you go on Area 51, what's the odds are maybe something happening to somebody in a group of people?
You're going to get messed up. If you go there, it's a lose-lose. It's plain and simple.
Well, he mentioned his conscience was bothering him because he would hate to see people in a body bag that were dumb enough to go on to Area 51 because somebody was posting it and pushing it. So that, you know, really was stressing him out big time. And, you know, it started getting, you know, way out of control. And the person that was doing this was kind of like going, I'm not saying bonkers, but they were having, I think, some emotional problems. And Art was trying to deal with, you know, salvaging, you know, what he created, all those years of creating a show, seeing it kind of fizzling down the drain. The hate, it was being spread on some groups on all these, you know, on the internet about him, his show, and then who the person took it over with. And he was to the point he didn't know what to do. I will say this. Art told me that like 2 days before he passed on, that he had every intention of coming back and doing the show. And I believe he was serious about that.
That I don't even, jeez. I don't know what people think, or I should say not thinking. It just doesn't make sense. And, you know, the thing is, one person can get a lot of people riled up and believe in something that they can do something, and it's foolish. I mean, geez.
Well, put it this way. If you went up to 1,000 people, just out of random, right, and you told them to go do something bad, somebody out of that 1,000 will probably take you up on it. Now,
well, yeah, there was a country in the 30s and 40s that did that.
Yeah.
You know, I think you might be familiar with one I'm speaking of.
Yeah, Sprachen Sie Deutsch? But, you know, seriously. And that, you know, you take that, but you take that 1,000 and then you multiply it. I don't know what the listenership was at that point after Art was off and somebody else was on it. But I'm sure there was still a fairly large, you know, group of groupies still listening to that person. And somebody's sitting there saying, I'll take a bullet. You know what? You're not going to get disclosure marching into Area 51. It isn't in hell going to happen. It won't happen. It won't happen. If people go march into Area 51, what's going to happen is going to be less disclosure than going on right now, which I am still disappointed about this disclosure bit because everybody was talking, oh, it's going to be major disclosure. Yeah, you got the Air Force and you got the Navy. You know, we got the Space Force, which don't make me laugh. But I mean, you know, disclosure, what with some of the people like Michael was talking about, all this major disclosure hasn't happened. But I guarantee if you go march into Area 51 and say, show me the aliens in the jars, it's never going to go that far. You know, what you're going to see is people getting shot.
Well, let me ask you this. How many people you think this year alone has written a book on disclosure?
I don't know, but it's gone rampant. I mean, you can't even go on Facebook without somebody, you know, with a new book on disclosure, or UFOs, or being abducted. You know, it's more than I've ever seen or heard of all my years in broadcasting.
I've never seen nothing like it. You know, I've been hearing this since I was a kid back in, 1940s about disclosure. Still haven't seen it come yet.
Well, I think right now is probably the most you're going to see for a while, because what's going on about this Area 51 is the government and whoever's leaking this crap out is not going to leak it out so much right now, because let's face it, I mean, there's over, 500,000 people now signed up to march on to Area 51?
Listen, I don't think that, first of all, that's not going to happen. And the silly ones that do go, man, why do you want to bestow a bunch of misery upon yourself?
Well,
and commit an act of treason on top of it? I mean, really?
Yeah, and how about your friends that are dumb enough to go on there? Now, say 500,000 or 600,000 people sign up to go on it. If only 1% goes, or 2%, that's still a lot of people, and each person that steps on there risk something bad happening. Okay,
you know, I'm going to make a bunch of shirts that's going to say, "I went to Area 51. All I got was a stupid shirt."
Yeah, well, yeah, and maybe a year in prison. I don't know. Here's where I hold this, okay? This one host, she started this whole thing, and it's been sitting there in the back, you know, kind of bubbling and gurgling, you know? That now it started up again. I don't know. I haven't been able to connect that it's anything to do with her. But it's kind of coincidental. She's talking about coming back on the air in about 6 or so days to start her streaming again. I hope if she does, you know, that she doesn't even talk Area 51. If she does, and if people go on Area 51, I hope the FBI, U.S. Marshals, and whoever grab her and lock her up till she's 93 years old.
Well, let me just put it to you like this. For somebody to incite 20 people, not to mention 500,000, to pretty much riot or take over a military base, and put their lives in jeopardy, and the people that are at the base that protects this country and lives in jeopardy, that, come on, there's got to be some serious charges there amongst all of it. And
there is.
To allow her to keep doing that, and you know that she's probably this thing called pride, so she's probably not going to let it go.
No, and the thing is, you know, this lady had a lot of talent. She actually did. She went from probably being a stinker, a host like I did 2 years ago, to, you know, I was rather impressed. And that's one of the conversations I had with Art. I said, she has all of a sudden came a long ways really fast, but then it started getting bizarre. Well,
sometimes these things turn people into other things. And I don't know, a little bit of success or whatever maybe got to her. I don't know, because I'm not her, but it sounds like maybe that could be what happened. I don't know.
Well, it's not a good way to try to get listeners, is it?
No, not that 7.5 million of them to get maybe whacked or put in prison. Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, you know, then all her personal stuff, she started rapping and raving about. You know what? People don't give a shit about your personal life, what you did prior to that, unless it was exciting, and maybe in the paranormal, if you're doing a paranormal show, but it started getting really bizarre. And I remember Art calling me up a couple times frantically saying, I can't find her. She's supposed to be doing a show. Where's she at? And he was like, you know, dropping, and, you know, bombshells in his head that he was freaking out. Well, you know, I guess maybe people can't handle the stress and might like going to Vegas and locking themselves in a room for a week or two. I don't know. But if she comes back, I hope she changes and treats people with respect.
Yeah, and maybe put out some disclaimers or retractions about this stuff, or even not even do it. Just to tell people, hey, don't do it, man. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Well, that's one thing I've always made a point, with all the guests I've had on the show, and I've had a lot of major guests on the show. I treat everybody, even if they're from Planet Xeon, with total respect, while they're on the air. And that is something somebody needs to learn. That's all I'm going to say on the bombshell about, Art and with this particular lady.
Right.
Do I have hostility towards her? No. Do I like her? No. Do I give a shit if she does a radio show? No, I don't care. You know what? There's all kinds of radio shows, on the internet. You go buy $11 microphone, plug it in your computer. Now you're a talk show host. Or if you don't even have the $11, take your frickin' cell phone, right? Go on one of these apps and do a talk show off of your cell phone, which some people do. Hey,
and I got to tell you something, Gary. I think there's a clause now in Facebook that you have to have a beard, and you've got to be eating, and you've got to be burping and smoking and drinking. You got to multitask a bunch of stuff whenever you're on Facebook Live interviewing nowadays. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
I don't know. I honestly, I don't. You're the only show I'll watch on Facebook Live because, seriously, you're sitting there watching somebody that's calling themselves the Kenny whatever show, right? And they're sitting on their chair in a dirty T-shirt, right? They haven't combed their hair, and they're eating or drinking. And their wife goes by drinking a beer, and they're doing a talk show on the paranormal. I'm going, oh my God! What Hey, has things changed that much?
No, they haven't changed that much. It's just what happened. The masses have $10 now, and they have Facebook, so they can go down Walmart, get themselves a mic, and say, "Hey, man, welcome to my show."
Oh yeah,
that's what's happened.
Oh yeah, and one thing, I am going to clear up a couple of things, okay, about Art, because people were messaging me all day about Art Bell. Art believed in giving out a good product, a good talk show. He enjoyed radio since like me. I picked up my first microphone at 10 years old, and they haven't yanked one out of me since. But I'll tell you, Art kind of like teased his audience at times, to see what he could get away with. I'm not going to say the last name, but that attorney named Michael, spent a whole day over in Ellensburg that time trying to find Mel's hole. And when he was at my house here about 8-9 months ago, we were talking, and he was talking about, I tried to find Mel's hole. And I said, you could find it to the end of the world. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, it never existed. Oh, no, Art said it existed. It never existed. It was a put on. Mel Waters in the hole with no bottom was a put on. And Art and wanted to see how far he could take it. And it went over good the first time, so then they had a second, and then the third one, where in Nevada, he went out to, was it Hopi Indians or whatever it is, and he found another hole, right, where they dropped a sheep in it or into it, and it kind of like...
Yeah, didn't they drop a dead dog in it and it came back alive or something like that?
Oh, that was Mel's hole. But the second one, the third show, was this, they dropped a sheep or goat, whatever it was, in this hole, and then it was making noise, and all of a sudden it was silent. So they brought it back out of the hole. Now the thing was like frozen, hard as a rock, and then all of a sudden it burst open, and this penguin popped out of it. This creature, it looked like a penguin, popped out of it. And the Art was, we were talking about that, and he was saying that he was laughing his head off because the listeners went for it. And then they talked about this like snow that caught on fire and it never quit. So you could have this like snow you pulled out of that hole, and you could have a fire. It never stops. But it consumed slowly. Like if you had it in your fireplace, in about a year's time, your fireplace would be all gone. But it was rather interesting how people would take it, or they fly by over Area 51 was another put on, and there were some other shows that were put on, but Art actually enjoyed doing it because he wasn't making fun of the audience. He just wanted to see, give entertainment. I always stress he used the word entertainment a lot. And